And Amy, well, I teased it. Did you get my reference, Amy, that Trump has had a long-standing affinity for generals?
Yes. Uh,
He owned the New Jersey Generals in the USFL.
oh,
You
that's
see what I
right.
did? Isn't that cute? Isn't
That's
that
so
darling?
sweet.
Less cute, more substantive from David French, National Review Online, who also served in the military. Generals are wise choices. He's responding to the hysterics from the left. Politico's Julie Ioff tweeting, three generals and maybe a fourth. Can we just cut to the chase and call ourselves a junta?
Well, don't they? President Obama had 5 generals in his cabinet. President George W. Bush had 4. This
Mm.
is not out of the ordinary. This is not an anomaly. This is no reason to panic.
Well, you better tell that to the New Yorker's
Oh,
Nicholas
gosh.
Thompson, who tweeted, how many generals do you need in government before you technically become a junta?
A
Yeah,
junta.
right. It's a
Excuse me?
military dictatorship we have now. We've gone from Trump as Hitler to now we have a military dictatorship. I think they need to pick their form of government they're going to rail against. But anyway, David French suggests actually generals are wise choices. They come from one of the few respected branches of government. They have done some stuff in their life. They've accomplished some things. They're not just theorists. And French writes, by appointing people from the nation's most trusted institution to important positions, we can't forget that in an era when trust for government and other civic institutions is plunging, the military has retained strong support. Doesn't mean they're beyond reproach, but French points out that in 15 years of war since 9/11, the military has consistently fought with honor, courage, and excellence. The best military in the world isn't built by accident, nor is it maintained through negligence. The generals who are responsible for some of the military's greatest recent successes have proven they're worthy of respect. And in polarized times, respect is a precious commodity. So it's a fair point or two that David French raises. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Paul Bonicelli. He is a former foreign policy and State Department official in the W administration, and now he is over at the Acton Institute as the director of programs there. Love the Acton Institute. One of my favorite mottos, branding mottos, comes from the Acton Institute, connecting good intentions with sound economics. That's Robert Sirico, who is a brilliant man who heads up the Acton Institute. Paul, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
What about this kind of contention coming from the D.C. press corps now that people should be a little bit concerned about the number of generals, the military brass that is in the Trump cabinet?
Well, when they keep up criticism like this, it makes me ask, I wonder what Donald Trump will do in his second administration. It is kind of amazing, isn't it? You have, not only is this not an unusual number, you have it, as David French notes, one of the only parts of our government that's respected, and that's left and right, Democrat, Republican. Part of that is because so many people have relatives in the military, or they did have. But, there's another reason why this doesn't make any sense. If you look at the 3 people he's chosen so far with military backgrounds, they actually are the best qualified for what they're doing. General Mattis, it goes without saying, is the most qualified to do defense. General Flynn, National Security Advisor, is an intel expert. He intends to do what the previous president, the current president, has not been doing, which is paying attention to what's actually true, because, Obama doesn't like the truth about the intelligence. It gets in the way of what he wants the world to look like and what he wants to do. And then General Kelly might be the best fit of all if you look at his whole career. He is not only a warfighter, but he's also an expert on what causes illegal immigration, drug trafficking, and terrorist incursions into our country from the southern border, because he was Southern Command commander, which is not a warfighting command. It's a command that focuses on those things I just listed. So these are excellent choices, and it just is actually icing on the cake to me that they're military, because I think that brings a good background, too.
So what do generals bring that civilians don't bring to the table, especially for cabinet positions?
I think that the military leaders in the United States, far from being croosters, these people are not, like generals in Venezuela or something like that. They get to those positions by being experts at diplomacy, at economics, at politics, at the bureaucracy. In other words, they touch all facets of our lives. They're always involved. People don't realize that people at that level, or those officer levels, are mixing in every part of our society and in foreign countries when they have, commands that touch in foreign countries. So I think that they bring the kinds of strengths that CEOs bring, as well as people experienced in government bring. And they're not apolitical. I mean, they may not be partisan, but these guys understand how politics works, and all that's important to make government work.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go to like the civilian seminars that the U.S. Army War College and the Naval College put on, and man, I've never been enlisted. I didn't serve because I'm a candy ass. But I went to these seminars, and so what you have the opportunity to spend a week like at Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, at the U.S. Army War College, with all of these career military officers, lieutenant colonels and colonels that are, looking to make the next step, and they need to complete the war college, if they want to go on from their current post. And it's really interesting because you break out in these group sessions. For people who don't know, I'm sure you do, Paul, but you break out in these group sessions, and they want to hear from the civilians that are there from different walks of life, and they're very intellectually curious. I mean, these are like super smart, talented, in addition to disciplined individuals that have a range of skill sets themselves. So I think we have this kind of caricature of the military and what military men and women represent and what they can and can't do and how they think or don't think. And it's so much more diverse when you actually have the opportunity to spend time with them, particularly at the officer level. And obviously we're talking about 4-star generals, advancing far beyond colonel and lieutenant colonel.
I think you give a perfect example. I have led seminars a couple of times over there, and that's exactly what I saw. It was quite unique, and that's why a lot of the countries in the world send their own militaries to go to the war college. They want them to get that kind of experience. Right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I remember in my little breakout session we had a naval officer from Albania. We had Army general from Pakistan. I mean, it's fascinating, the diversity, and as you say, how many other countries have their military personnel there, which speaks to obviously the superiority of ours.
Absolutely, no question. And, I wonder if all of the military folks that lined up behind Hillary and said Trump was not acceptable, if they might come out and comment on how many generals they think it takes to make a coup. I mean, I don't think you're going to hear that. And it's just the arguments against Trump are getting to be kind of absurd, and I think that's not good for the country. He's demonstrated his bona fides about bringing people together and being rational about the presidency. I think it's time for them to do the same.
Speaking of generals, what is your view on Petraeus? Paula Broadwell spoke for the first time in 5 years yesterday and basically said, I want to get on with my life. He should be able to get on with his life. He's eminently qualified for the post of Secretary of State. I don't know what Trump's going to do, but so she didn't really break bad on him. She's just kind of trying to put it past her like he is. But does that knock him out of the box? Should it knock him out of the box, that the misdemeanor conviction?
I think it does for a lot of people. I've been trying to gauge what military leaders have been saying, and there are some that, want to say that this is clearly a serious mistake. It was important intelligence. It was done for a really base reason, but he has no record of that in his career. That is one, very big mistake. Others say it's too much of a mistake, especially after Hillary Clinton's activities, to let that go. It will only hurt Donald Trump. So I confess I don't know which way this would fall. I think he's been such a stellar leader that he would probably get past it. But you always have to think about the confirmation hearing. You have to think about how much damage is done to the president when you're going through those confirmation hearings. So I think there are others that my guess is Donald Trump will pick otherwise, just because it's not worth what it could cause for his agenda. But I confess I certainly don't know.
Yeah, but General Petraeus, he's owned up to it. He apologized. He was on with George Stephanopoulos. And but do you trust him if he was to be picked as Secretary of State?
I would. I don't think he would ever do such a thing again. Again, he's not lived a life that way. And there are other people in public life who, you're not surprised every time it happens again, whatever it is that they keep doing. But Petraeus is certainly not that kind of leader.
You mentioned General Kelly, Homeland Security, and his expertise in immigration. One of the things that he suggested is that Gitmo should stay open, which certainly runs afoul of this administration's posture and the cleaning out of Gitmo that's going on. How does that play out? Are we going to repopulate Gitmo with enemy combatants, or is it past post at this point, given what the Obama administration has done?
I expect it to be repopulated. I mean, I don't know what else Madison, Flynn, and Kelly and others are going to do with the people that we're going to be capturing, because there'll be a very different point of view. Barack Obama's administration was much more interested in killing people with drones than he was in bringing them back and getting the intelligence so that you can prevent more attacks, and you can harm the whole terrorist infrastructure. So I assume it will stay open, and I assume it will be used again.
All right. He is Paul Bonicelli. He's programs director at the Acton Institute, former foreign policy advisor, State Department official in the George W. Bush administration. Paul, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you both. Pleasure to be with you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.